What's good? What's good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of The Urban Platform Speaks. Make sure to like and subscribe as you tune into the channel and you check out the content. And in this video, I'm going to be talking about uh, NFL, NBA, major, like professional athletes going broke, right? And so you hear a lot of stats about why professional athletes go broke. And the stats, in my opinion, are only part of they're only part of the story. You'll hear them say that like, oh, 60% go broke after 5 years, or NFL. Then you hear the NBA, a certain percentage of those guys go broke after 5 years of retiring from the sport, right? That's only part of it, right? But I want to discuss and talk about how it is a setup. When an athlete first comes into the NBA, the NFL, or even Major League Baseball, any professional sport, and you hear the amount of money that they're going to make, and these guys are led to believe that they're going to be set for the rest of their life, and they don't understand that just the same way that they worked at whatever their sport is, basketball, baseball, football, they're going to have to work to learn how to, if they want to become an entrepreneur, that's a whole nother skill. So they're going to have to work. And sometimes it takes years to learn how to become an entrepreneur or develop or grow a business, right? When you think about, like, for instance, if you wanted to open a restaurant, they say within the first 5 years of opening and owning a restaurant, most restaurants go broke. So just because you have money, that don't mean that you can go out, you can open a restaurant and you're going to do well. You have to learn the business. And so whatever business you choose to go into as a professional athlete, you got to learn that business. And the whole time that you're learning that business and you're trying to grow the business and you want to make that business profitable, you have to be living below your means. And you have to, as a matter of fact, you have to operate as if you don't have any money, right? Because you don't want to go broke. It's like if you go into a casino and you don't know how to play blackjack, right? And you want to learn how to play blackjack, and you got $1 million with you. You don't want to lose that $1 million learning how to play blackjack. Just like some people might go in there broke and learn how to play faster because they're thinking, and they're not thinking that, oh, I can fall back on my money because I got money. It don't work like that, man. You gotta learn and you gotta study your business. So with that being said, I'm gonna play the audio from this what is this NBA players lose millions. And it talk, and I'm gonna give some pushback and just a different perspective on how these guys lose money.
In December 2025, Odell Beckham Jr. sat down on a podcast and said something that ignited the internet.
Odell Beckham yesterday on a podcast said the following.
He said a 5-year, $100 million contract isn't really $100 million. After taxes, after fees, after everything, he said it becomes closer to 60.
If I didn't have $1 in my account right here today as we speak, I'm going to be straight for the rest of my life. No question, right? I don't think everybody is in that. And when you've sacrificed your whole life to get here, and you're like, yeah, I played 10 years in the league. And I always explain this to people, I'm like, bro, you give somebody a 5-year, $100 million contract, right? What is it really? It's 5 years for 60. You're getting taxed, do the math, that's 12 a year.
The backlash was
All right, so even with that being said, right, you still have to, like you say, you get $100 million, which really going to turn into 60. And so some people might say, wow, that's $60 million. You still, as a professional, you still have to live below your means, because you go out and you buy a house. Even if you pay cash for the house, you got to maintain the house. You got to maintain the property around the house. You have to keep the house clean. So there are other expenses that come with houses. You roof, electrical, plumbing. So you got to take all that into account. I would advise them to live a middle class lifestyle. Like, you don't need to go out and buy a mansion, and have all this property and all these different expenses, because the expectation, like you said, when you work 10 years to get to a place, like sports is different. When you work 10 years or maybe even longer to become a professional athlete, you thinking that you have made it. But you at the most you're only going to play. Most people only play for like about 3 to 5 years, depending on your sport. And if you're lucky enough to play 10 years, like Odell Beckham, then that's cool. That gives you more of a cushion. But that don't mean that you still can't. You still have to live like a modest middle class type lifestyle. And I know people say, well, there are gated communities and apartment complexes with security that you can live in, whereas though it's not as expensive as like owning a 5 to 10 or $15 million home. That's just money thrown away. Basically, if you buy a house like that, you're just leasing that house, until probably like about 5 years after you're done playing, and then you're gonna have to sell that house and downsize anyway. So
Idiot.
He said it's very hard to live off of $100 million contract. Okay. So, folks, I want us to sympathize with him. But
all right, so people laugh when athletes say that, right? Like it's hard to live off of that kind of money. But the people who are laughing, like this is Patrick McDavid, right? He's still working, right? He has a popular podcast, right, that generate a lot of money. So he's still working. He may have 5, 10, 15 million dollars, but he's also have money coming in. And Patrick McDavid also know he has a budget, whereas though he know what he can spend and what he can't spend, right? Based on how much money he has coming in. Same thing with like professional athletes who leave their sport, Charles Barkley or Shaq, they still work, so they have income coming in. So once you finish playing basketball, baseball, football, you still have to have that income coming in. Now, you're not going to make what you made as a professional athlete. So I don't know. These guys think that they can retire once they finish playing basketball, baseball, football, because you hear somebody say, oh, $60 million, $100 million, I'm set for life. That's not it. You're going to be working for the rest of your life if you want to maintain that lifestyle. Michael Jordan still get checks from Nike, right? I think if they estimate that Michael Jordan make between like around $100 million a year from Nike. So he's still reaping the benefits from when he played, and based on the money that might come in, that's what his lifestyle is. But athletes who think that they're going to be able to retire and ride off into the sunset, that is it's just not true. It's just not true. And don't be a type of athlete who gets who's in an unfortunate position of getting taken advantage of. People say, well, all right, invest in this. And they take advantage of your money and your fame. And then once your money's gone, then you'll have people come along who want to capitalize on your fame and your story. So it's a nasty cycle that goes on that a lot of these athletes are not aware of until they're put in that position.
there's a part of it where he has a very good point.
That you have to spend, use, save, invest, flaunt, like whatever.
All right, saving money. Like I said, you can't save money if you don't. It's hard to save money if you don't have income coming in. Like if you got a set amount of money sitting in the bank and you retire from whatever your sport is, over time, that money is going to dwindle because you are not replacing that money with more income, right? And so savings is I'm not saying don't save, but I'm just saying like save is not going to be the end all be all.
Just being real, I'm gonna buy a car, I'm gonna give my mama a house, I'm gonna do everything costs money. So if you spending $4 million a year, that's really 40 million over 5 years, 8 a year, and now you start breaking down the numbers, it's like that's a 5-year span of where you're getting 8 million. Can you make that last forever? And you always hear the people who ain't us and ain't been in the position.
People called him out of touch. They called him ungrateful.
Bro say he's spending $4 million a year. if you spending $4 million a year and it ain't a business related, you out your damn mind.
They said he didn't understand how money worked.
Ain't no way in hell I'm spending $4 million a year. Okay.
All right. And so Shannon Sharp has a popular podcast, and he said he still don't spend $4 million a year, right? That's why, I don't get it. And then a lot of these guys have financial advisors, which I think a lot of times the financial advisors really don't do anything for you that you can't do for yourself. Like I said, it's a whole nother skill that you got to develop as far as how to manage your money, and how to, you got to find another business or another profession to go into. Shannon Sharp, again, another professional athlete who played football, but he's not living off of that football money. That football money is gone. He has 2 very successful and popular podcasts right now, and he's still working hard. And so that's what a lot of athletes fall into the trap of thinking, that once I'm finished playing basketball, baseball, or football, that I can just lay back, or I can invest and let my money work for me, right? When you still got to work for the money, and that right there, in my opinion, is a myth, that you don't have to work. It's a whole nother skill that you have to learn. And so the good thing about it is you do have, if you save your money right, you budget your money right, you give yourself an opportunity to go into start a business or something and find something that you like to do and develop that business. And that'll probably take years. Just, give yourself like 5 years or so to start a business and to grow that business. And don't think that like right off the bat, just because you got a $40 million sitting in the bank, that you're going to be able to start a successful business. That's just like I said, if you got 40 million in the bank and you say, I want to learn how to play poker, you're going to lose the 40 million, so that, and that's the thing. You have so many people out here that are willing to take advantage of the fact that athletes don't know this. Athletes don't realize this. And so they just get taken advantage of. So that's my take on it. Make sure to like, subscribe to the channel. Also, don't forget to leave a comment. And with that being said, man, I'm going to check y'all out in the next video.